Now I'd like to look forward and welcome the individual who will be becoming the HFTP Global President for the coming year. And now's the hardest part of the night because it says Conti inserts personal remarks. Wow, that was intense, Scott. So this is the hardest part because installing a president and someone such as Scott is really an honor for me. When I think about my start in this industry and coming to HFTP and my first high tech, I saw this guy walking around named Scot Campbell who scared the crap out of me because I'm like, oh my God, that's Scot Campbell. He's worked for all these major companies and he knows all this stuff and everyone talks about how brilliant he is. And then Scott got on the board and I realized how brilliant he was. But then I got to know him even more and personally. And the more you get to know Scott, the more you can appreciate what he's going to bring to us as a president. His wife, Sue, couldn't be here, unfortunately, with us this week because of some housing issues. Is that how we'll refer to it, Scott? But I did talk to Sue this week, and I asked Sue to tell me, tell me about Scott. How would you describe Scott? And she said a number of interesting things. She said the most important thing to her about Scott, and the thing that she appreciated the most, is his commitment to family. And she said he was a baseball coach, he was the president of the Little League, he was a Cub Scout master, he was a youth leader at the church when his kids were in junior high school, then did the high school kids because that's when the boys were there, and that he's a doting grandfather, and Scott will show you all the pictures of his grandson as often as he can. And then she said he gives 110% to all of his commitments. And nothing could be truer. If you look at his family, you look at whatever Scott's involved with, he gives it his all. Some of us know that Scott began his career as a DJ. And there's a picture of him back then, I believe, floating around. It's been in the rotation, so look for it. You may not recognize him, though I have no hair. He had really long hair then, so it's interesting. He also blames his wife for his love of IT, and to give you an idea of how far back he goes in his IT world, he blames her because she brought him a Commodore VIC-20. So the millennials in the room are like, what the hell's a Commodore VIC-20? Well, ask Scott, he'll tell you all about it. Yeah, or don't ask Scott, right? Certainly, Scott has an impressive resume when it comes to work. He's worked for MGM, Caesars. He's currently with Live Nation. But that's not what really defines Scott. What defines Scott is him as a person. It's how he connects with people. And I remember when he got onto the executive committee, and I really got to know him, and he became a good friend of mine, how much I appreciated what a great president he was going to be for us. Because the first time I really got to talk with him, I was immediately at ease, even though I was in awe. And that's because of Scott's wonderful personality. But I remember one particular executive committee meeting that we were sitting in, and those of you that know me know that I'm a verbal thinker, so I'm constantly talking to try to go through things. Scott really is not. And we're talking about all these challenges and everything, and Scott just all of a sudden goes, well, we're Coke. I'm going, what is he talking about? He says, we need to act like Coke. So I go, okay, what are you talking about, Scott? He said, you know, Coke was the #1 company, and they started to worry about Pepsi, and they started saying Pepsi's name. And as soon as they did that, they started to lose market share because they began to acknowledge who was not as good as them. And then he looked and he said, we're Coke. No one's as good as us. We're the best. I don't care what anybody else is trying to do. No one is going to be better than us. That's why I chose to be part of this association. And at that point, I realized he really meant that. He cares so much about HFTP that comes across in how he acts, how he talks, those he engages with. He'll go up to anyone, not say, hi, I'm with Live Nation, I'm this, I'm the global. He wants to get to know you. If you've watched him this week or interacted with him and hadn't known, he comes up and just wants to know your story. He wants to add you to his life. And it's because of this that really Scott's philosophy in life is really family, friends, and faith. He's a man of faith. He loves his family, and his friends become part of his family. And I truly get to say that I feel like I am part of Scot's family. So really, there's only one way that I can think to ask Scot to come up here to join us. So this is the proper way, Scot, for you to be introduced.
Ladies and gentlemen of HFTP, please join me in a raucous round of applause for the man, the myth, the legend, your incoming president, the one and only Scot Campbell.
You ready?
Ready.
All right. Scot, this evening you assume a very important position, that of Chief Elected Officer of Hospitality, Financial, and Technology Professionals. The office of President is the highest recognition in the association, but it comes with significant responsibility. It is primarily a post of service to the members of this association and to your chosen profession. Your fellow members have indicated their desire to work under your leadership and guidance to further the goals of this association. Do you accept this responsibility?
I do.
Congratulations, Scot. Ladies and gentlemen, your new president.
I really appreciate it. I walked in the room tonight and I thought, wow, where did they get this? This is from like 1976. This was a picture of me at this point, right? So, not. If I haven't met you yet, I want to meet you. I really do. Because I will tell you, in 2006, Daniel kind of alluded to this, I was a radio disc jockey for 16 years. And I thought that's who I was going to be. And my wife had our first child, and I thought, oh my God, I'm going to have to get a real job. And so I became a computer trainer because she bought me a VIC-20 and I learned. And I accidentally taught a class at the Mirage Hotel. And at the end of the class, this lady stayed behind and said, hey, how come you don't work for us? And I was just kind of dumb and young enough where I said, no one's ever asked. And she goes, I think someone will. And she left. And then she left her card on the table, and I looked at the card, and it was Elaine Wynn, Steve Wynn's wife. 2 weeks later, I was in the corporate IT department at Wynn Resorts. I think that God has a sense of humor. I really do. And God leads my life. Everything I do, I trust in him. And he has taken me through some crazy places. I got a job, and so I was like, I didn't know what I was doing. I was what was called a product manager, and I was supposed to go out and figure out how things worked, and then translate that into corporate IT systems. And I was, every day I went home and I was like, I'm a radio DJ, what am I doing here? But in 2006, my boss at the time sent me to Minneapolis, Minnesota, to this weird thing. I thought, what is this? He goes, no, it's like a trade show. It's where all the geek stuff is. And it's called High Tech. And I went, oh, okay. 2006. And I walked in the door, and I was late. So I walked in the door, and I walked into a session. I didn't even know what the session was, but Scott Anderson from Sendine was sitting in a panel at the front of the room. And at the end of that session, I realized that there was a place in this world where people helped each other out. They helped each other, they came together, and they collaborated, and my lack of knowledge didn't matter because I could learn from people, and I could make relationships with people, and that I could just wander around and listen to other people talk and sound a lot smarter at the end of the day. I left that place saying, I got home, and I remember my wife said, she says, well, what was it like? Was it very corporate? I go, no, it was cool. It was so cool. And people like me were there, and they were like the coolest people on the world. I go, this is like home for me. This is where I need to be, in this place, because that's where my career wanted to go at the time. And so I kept coming back to high tech, and I kept learning from people, and I kept making friends, and I would call friends, by the way. Don't be afraid. If you meet me and we exchange information, I'll call you, and I'll be like, hey, what do you think about this? Because I think it's important as an association that we ask each other questions, because it's not just my opinion that matters. It's never my opinion that matters. It's like, what does the industry really think? And so I've done that my whole career. And then there was the day I was given this really cool project, and halfway through the project, I get called, and there was like, hey, there's this guy named Rich Siegel, and he writes a magazine, and he wants to come interview you. And I was like, what? Rich Siegel? Okay. So we sat down, and Rich Siegel made me famous, I have to be honest with you, because that little article on what room technology was going to look like in the future and the way we were building new hotels really kind of brought attention to me, and I made a bunch of new friends from that. Also, by the way, just anecdotally, Rich made me dress up at High Tech one year as a girl on stage and make fun of people. And so I appreciate that, Rich. Thank you. I don't think, part of this oath was, are you up to the challenge? Are you the guy? Can you take the oath? Are you willing to be the one who leads the association? I think I'm the one who is willing to allow all of you to lead this association. I think I'm the one that can support that and your ideas and make sure that your ideas are heard. I'm not sure I'm the leader of the association at the end of the day. That's not what I perceive as the president. The president stands up and says, association, what should we be working on? Tell us. And then I will lobby our board of directors and our staff for us to go work on those things. It's not about me. I've lived my whole life in service. And here's the interesting part, because I always felt like, when I talk about HFTP to people, when I talk about high tech, when I tell the folks that I work with in Live Nation right now, they're like, you're going to Amsterdam? We don't have anything in Amsterdam. What are you doing? I said, no, I'm going to Amsterdam for High Tech Europe. And they're like, what's that? Because we've yet to kind of fully envelop the entertainment industry into HFTP, which is going to happen, if I have anything to say about it. And so I started explaining to them what this association is, and they're like, that's like the coolest thing in the world. And you're going there? And I was like, yeah. And oh, by the way, you should come to some meetings, because I think you as an entertainment IT person can benefit from this association also. Because really, when you think about it, hospitality is hospitality. Anna hit on it perfectly. It's hospitality. It's hospitality to our customers. It's hospitality to each other. It's the friends we make. It's the things we learn from each other. It's hospitality, isn't it? It totally is. And then the last thing I want to touch on, because or I could go on for another 45 minutes, but I won't. Frank is one of the most brilliant people that I've ever met. Frank has his ability to get outside the box and think about cool stuff. And some of those things are weird, and some of those things are right on track, right? It's like, well, should HFTP hospitality should get into the scooter rental business, and we should rent scooters everywhere. Well, I don't know about that one, but when you sit down and have a meaningful conversation with Frank, inevitably, this subject will come out, that HFTP's strength is in its network. I want you to know that. If you haven't heard that before, we as an association, our strength is in our network of who we know and the fact that we brought really smart people here together in all of our events to make us all collectively smarter. And I hope that makes sense to you. And I know that because I've been on the board and the executive committee for a while, that staff and the board and the executive committee are constantly looking for more people to be in that network. But that's a small group of people that you met tonight. My challenge for 2018, because they said you should really talk about, something that you want to work on in 2019. My challenge in 2019 is, can we grow our network with more smart people? And it's not me, and it's not Frank, and it's not staff. They will do their job. They will work hard at it. But here's my challenge for you. As an HFTP member, is there one other person that you know that could be an HFTP member? And think about it. If everybody who's a member found one other person in the year 2019, our network would grow 100%. That's what I want to work on in 2019, because I think it's the people and it's the smartness and our collective behavior of sharing with each other that makes HFTP what it is. And I really, really hope that I don't offend anyone, but this is just me. I challenge you to do that. The second thing that could possibly offend people, but I don't really care, is, let me end in this way. May the Lord keep you and bless you. May the Lord lift his face upon you and give you peace. Thank you and amen. So I didn't write the speech. I had to walk off for a second, get my head back together. Whew. Truly an honor. And being able to be on the executive committee and watch Daniel and watch Lyle be the president and the initiatives that they push forward. And then this year, watching Tim Nas was just literally amazing. And it's funny because if you were hanging out in a social circle, you would go, Tim and Scott are like not direct opposites, but they're different. Let's face it, he's a CFO and I'm a computer geek. Right? And we purposefully, as an association, by the way, I just want to add my own personal feeling on this, we rotate finance and technology as we bring leadership to the table. But Tim and I have become great friends. And here's what you don't know. We share the same thing. Deep down in our soul, our families and our children, there's never a time that I have seen Tim, talked to Tim, or got on a video conference with Tim for a meeting or whatever, that Tim doesn't brag about his children. And you know, when you have that kind of inner strength that this is who you are, that family is first and everything else comes next, we share that. And that I am in awe of you. And as the immediate past president, and you know, there's this concept of Tim will stay on for a year and kind of mentor me so I don't screw up too much, right? I look forward to that relationship because Tim, you are a genuinely beautiful man, and I thank you. I really thank you for staying on for another year and helping me through this whole presidency. And so, Now Millicent's telling me, she's like, yeah, well, all that's gone. So we're going to have a party. We're going to have a nice dinner, and we're going to do some dancing, and I expect people to dance. Right? That's where we're going next? All right, so please enjoy yourself into the night, and I promise I'll pick up the papers. What's the next thing?
Give Tim the globe.
Oh, I have to give Tim the globe. It doesn't say on the script to give Tim the globe. Okay. Holy crap, Tim, look at this globe. Holy crap, I didn't even know this was here. So like, hold on, Frank, in a year, will I get like a globe like this too? Absolutely beautiful. Thank you. And I think he's going to take a picture.